It was past noon in Mexico. Every step in the desert led us closer to the river. In the summer of 2014, I was the oldest unaccompanied minor traveling with other Central American children seeking asylum in the United States. While the children were scared, I tried to put my fear away and tell them we were going to be safe, even though that was not certainty at all. After we passed the river, which we crossed by a gang member just blowing up a floaty that he had under a tree, we all went 5 by 5 on this very tiny floaty and crossed the river onto the other side. When we finally touched land in the United States, I felt safe. I felt like I was finally going to be reunited with my parents and finally understand that all my entire life was leading up to this moment for a reason. Border Patrol came and arrested us, took all of our belongings, and put us on 3 different cars before getting to the next detention center, where we were processed and then awaited to be sent home. I'm Katherine Almendarez. I'm a Honduran asylee, advocate, and future attorney. I am also a senior at Claremont McKenna College studying Latin American studies and writing a thesis about the life and policy of Central American asylees who are stuck in a transnational cycle of oppression. And I'm here to share with you the story of what it's like to be a child in Honduras, born and raised, to then migrate to the United States and to have to come to face with what a cycle of oppression looks like for a lot of communities of colors that are coming from my region, my culture, and my community. Let's get started to what happened after we were sent to detention. We were placed in this very, very cold cell. Think of the coldest place you've ever been. Maybe, I don't know, Boston or New York without a jacket in the middle of winter, colder than that. And we had dirt all over us. Again, I was the oldest, and all the other children were just little girls who had just crossed, did not know English, and were scared and terrified to death because had been separated from their parents. Keep in mind, this is summer 2014, if you want to keep track of what politics looked like at the time versus what the narrative and rhetoric has surrounded Central American refugees in the present. Past that, just given my quick background on, I grew up in a small city called Juticalpa in Honduras with my grandmother and lots of other cousins, aunts, and uncles, just a lot of extended family. My parents migrated to the United States in 2004 and 2001, escaping a lot of violence and assassination attempts due to our association with literally just living in a specific neighborhood. Because my parents left to the United States, I was able to go to private school for my elementary school, and that's where I learned English, which comes to play a really big role in my life to this day and to be where I am given my background. So back into the detention centers, I asked this one officer, I'm like, sir, are we going back to Honduras or are we going to our parents? And he was very surprised that I knew English and immediately asked me, why do you know English? Mind you, at the time, I did look like I had just walked the desert and crossed the river, so I don't blame him that much. And so that was sort of a theme that really lasted all throughout the next following years, which is when my family and I went through our asylum process, which is a legal procedure of forced removal that happens when someone seeks asylum at the border. They have to essentially attend a lot of court hearings and get an attorney and really fight for a case to prove that there was a reason of persecution back home that will continue if being sent back. The next 4 years happened. I was 15, then 16, 17, went to 3 different high schools, 2 charter schools, and I finally went to a really good public school that was a collegiated high school where everyone around me, as well as myself, we got to do our associate's degree. So I did it in political science, started engaging in a lot of politics, political education through community activism and service, and started learning about what it meant to be undocumented for me, which was very different to what it meant to be undocumented from my parents and my aunts, who would constantly remind me, don't tell people you're undocumented. And guess what the next thing I did, which is kind of similar to now. I went on national television screaming, I am undocumented. And I was here to do a lot of good things. I didn't leave Honduras because I wanted to. In fact, I wish I could go back and see my friends or see my grandmother who passed away due to COVID, and I never got to say bye to her or goodbye or give her a hug, even though she raised me and was my mother. I left because it was either that or being killed. And that is a story that I'm here to tell you today about what it's like to be from a community that is stuck in this cycle. Part of the cycle we've addressed thus far is growing up in a place with a lot of systemic violence, then moving into another area where you have to migrate and survive the dangers of crossing, where I saw a man get shot, and I saw women in desperation and babies that were as young as 5 and 9 months old trying to escape that place. And so we have the immigration issue that is becoming political and politicized, and our livelihoods just get thrown into political debates all the time and whatnot. Then we have the education aspect, where when I was applying to college, I got accepted to a lot of different universities that I couldn't attend because obviously being undocumented really correlates with being low income as well as being first generation, and so I couldn't afford whatever ticket price that was. I ended up going to the public school near my house, and this was in 2018. Ended up, getting straight A's, working full time to even afford to go to college, and really trying my best at showcasing the United States that I was worthy of staying here. Not that my past and my experiences were worthy of asylum, but that I myself was worth enough for them to grant me the opportunity to stay here and be safe with my family, with my siblings who I just, met, all these different things. Fall 2018, September, my mom and I go to our last court hearing in downtown Miami. We take an Uber there, and I'm wearing this yellow shirt that was my lucky shirt. I ended up winning some awards when I wore that shirt. So we went, and the judge immediately saw our case and dismissed us and said, you have 30 days to leave this country. Here we're again within that cycle where the majority of asylum cases are denied for Central Americans. And that is not something new. This is something historical since the 80s. We essentially didn't have any other options. We were being deported in 30 days, and that was all. The judge did give the opportunity to my attorney and the U.S. attorney to go outside the hallway and debate or sort of reach a negotiation or a deal to see what can happen with our case. So I went outside, and again, me knowing English, haven't gone to college before, haven't gotten a college degree before even graduating high school, founded a nonprofit organization, volunteered every single day, and essentially went just above and beyond to be worthy of these documentations. I asked him, and I was like, please give me asylum. I'm going to become a lawyer, and I'm going to fight for people who are placed in this exact same situation as I am being right now. After a lot of back and forth and a lot of just really uncomfortable conversations where they just infer that I should marry someone to obtain citizenship, but even if I did, my parents will still be deported, so it wasn't really working and also went against my feminist values. But we eventually reached a deal. I was too stubborn to give up, but I was also too afraid to give up. A 30-day deportation meant my entire family was going to be uprooted and sent back to a place where it was a death sentence awaiting for us. This story is not unique. I am not the only one who's faced this. I am part of a systemic displacement that is currently happening for Central Americans, particularly low-income indigenous communities who are facing poverty and racism in all levels back home, who are then subjugated to these other systems and who are given no grace and no mercy and no opportunity like the one I received that day, simply because of things that they really can't control, such as learning English when they were a little kid, or being able to go to school. Like I was afforded the opportunity, even if it was public school, my parents always prioritized my education. And they worked construction and cleaning houses, but they always made sure that I was able to go to school. those opportunities don't really happen when you have to simply be surviving. You can consider me a success, and I know a lot of people really attribute that to me, and that's cool and all, but the real underlying problem is really what this cycle looks like and what this cycle keeps going. And so when are we going to get rid of it? And when are we going to break through? And when are we going to do something about it beyond talking about it, beyond just posting infographics and understanding what it looks like, but actually wanting for people to get their legal representation covered, to be able to stay home? I think the ideal solution is for development in Central America to occur in a way that this mass migration things don't have to happen. I went through it. And since it's not just a matter of, wow, Katherine, you did that, that was so successful. No, I also suffer from PTSD as a result. I also have a lot of mental health issues. I also have to have really groundbreaking intergenerational traumatic conversations happen in my family to get past this, because it was not only me, it was my parents, it was my aunts, it was my cousins, it was my neighbors, it is currently all these people. So many times I get called, Katherine, your cousin is in detention, final representation and whatnot. So I do think that this is a responsibility that extends beyond me and beyond my family and my community, and I will continue to do so. But I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is to be able to understand who I am with or without the accomplishments, because on that day when the judge said that I wasn't worthy of, she didn't really give me the opportunity to demonstrate what my family was going to suffer if we were sent back. Instead, the attorney just saw the potential I had. And I believe that humanity should not be based on merit. Humanity is something that we must have for one another simply because we are born and brought into this world to fight for others and leave it a better place. And I can really say that I love the community I am part of because they love me for who I am and not for what I can and cannot accomplish, because I will fall short on a lot of things. But it's really awesome to know that there's a big community behind me and that I'm part of a resistance, a movement of resistance that has started long before me and will continue long after me. Thank you.